It's time for Mornings at 8 with Jonathan Mark on AM 1480 WLEA.
Well, yes, it is time for Mornings at 8, and here we are. It is 6 minutes after 8 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Thursday, practically Friday. One more little day, and here's the weekend. Well, I'm going to get right down to business this morning. We have on the line Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've never spoken, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
As it is for me also. Thank you.
Okay. Now, as all of Western New York and Central New York is aware, I'm sure, there was a major fire in Hornell on Sunday.
Yes.
And miraculously, nobody was hurt, but it was a big, major fire. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm very thankful that while there was property damage and I guess potentially some animals that had been lost, that there was no human life lost. It sounds like the fire department and the police department, Mayor Buckley, all stepped up to the plate and handled this emergency as best as anybody could, given the scope of it and the tragedy of it.
There was the Hornell Fire Department, Canisteo, North Hornell, Arkport, Howard.
Right. I had been to Arkport. The fire department had their raffle just the night before, and I was down there with a lot of the guys and gals. And you have a phenomenal group of people, both paid and volunteer, in that area. And I'm sure that the camaraderie amongst all of these organizations is what made what could have been a worse situation, that much better.
Well, it takes a lot of cooperation to fight a fire of that size, I'm sure, Have you been down there and seen the damage?
I have not. I watched not yet. I'm going to be there at 9:30 this morning, and I'm meeting with the mayor. He has a meeting earlier with some county officials, and then I'm going to hook up with him after that. I guess because of modern technology, I was able to actually watch the fire live on different feeds that were coming in from the news organizations, as well as watched the mayor's press conference live also. So, and I've spoken with the mayor on a couple of occasions. Obviously, I've offered him whatever help we can do. And but as far as myself getting down to look at this, I'll be doing that at about 9:30 this morning, and I know it's going to be very sad.
Well, Assemblywoman, I can assure you, you've probably never seen anything like this. I mean, it was devastating. It really was. It's a mess. It really is. Now, the legislative session begins in January, right, I think?
Yeah, January 8th, I believe.
January 8th. So there are so many issues in Albany. I mean, do you have any personal goals, what you want to accomplish during this coming legislative session?
There are a couple of local bills that are very important in our region on trying to do things to upgrade speed limits and things of that nature in order to work with master plans for a number of communities. And it's really important that the Republican minority as an entire caucus work against and try to get repealed the legislation that put in the changes to the criminal justice system. I think that's going to be a major push, not just by myself, but by all the members of the conference, because that, we anticipate, is going to be very devastating to our communities on January 1st.
Well, the list of crimes where suspects will be freed from prison before trial includes some really serious crimes. There's manslaughter, aggravated vehicular assault, third-degree assault, promoting obscene sexual performance by a child, failing to register as a sex offender, making terroristic threats, criminally negligent homicide, aggravated vehicular homicide, some pretty serious crimes.
Oh, absolutely. Burglary of a dwelling. But you have your own home also broken into, and it's the scope of what they had done and done so radically. It really is very scary, and I know you've spoken before with your DA, the sheriff, both phenomenal people, and I know that they feel the same way I do. But unfortunately, they have to deal with whatever laws the legislature and the governor sign into law. So it becomes incumbent on me and the people of like mind that feel the way I do to fight against this in Albany and to do our best to get it repealed.
Well, every law enforcement officer we've spoken to, and those in government, say that they are definitely against this.
Yes. No, and even Sheriff Baxter, who is a Democrat up in Monroe County, is very outspoken against it. And even at a forum that I was present at, took to task one of the Democratic assemblymen who was running point on this in Albany. So it really makes no sense at all if anybody cares about their community and respecting law and order.
Mm-hmm. But being in the minority in Albany, it's got to be very tough. How do you
It is.
how do you get
we
things?
have been able to accomplish some things, and I know we will be able to in the future. And part of it is uniting together. Mm-hmm. For example, last year, the governor, it started out with the assembly, and Steve Hawley, who is an assemblyman for the Republicans up in the Batavia area, was trying to get a college education for the children of Gold Star families. And the Democrats in the Assembly Committee would not let it come out to the floor for a vote. And at the same time, they did allow illegal immigrants to have college educations. So by using social media, Facebook and Twitter, a whole lot of people were able to get a lot of attention to that matter, including it being on Fox News, so that even though the Assembly Democrats didn't back down, the governor did. And he did, I'm not fond of his executive orders. In this particular case, he did do an executive order that now does allow for the children of Gold Star families to have SUNY and CUNY educations. So that was one thing we were able to do. And also recently up here in Livingston County, when the Democratic legislative leaders were refusing to put local members on siting boards for large-scale electrical projects like solar, and more prevalent in Steuben County is the wind turbines. By holding a press conference, myself and a senator from the Buffalo area, we finally got the Assembly minority to appoint somebody. The Senate did also on one of the projects, and now there's another project in the Mount Morris area in my district where they finally have asked for the resumes. And this should have been done 6 or 7 months ago, in some cases years ago on other projects. Obviously, I became involved when I got elected in January. So we are making progress, because before they had put nobody on the siting boards that were local individuals. The Democrats hadn't. And now we're starting to get little by little a little kink in the armor. So it's one of those things, though, where you've got to take a stand, you got to push it, and you've got to continue to push it, not just do a one-day news story and then say, yay, there you go, I spoke out. But instead, pursue it, write the letters, make phone calls, rally the troops, and try to do what's right.
We're speaking with Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns. Assemblywoman, what's your take on the green light law? New driver licenses for undocumented immigrants.
Yeah. No, I think that never, ever, ever should have passed. One of the things that we spoke about on the Assembly floor, that I spoke about, was the fact that nowadays, with so much of the applications for voting being done online, and all it takes is to go online. There's a box that says, are you a United States citizen? Nobody's there watching over your shoulder. All you do is have to check yes. And then it takes you to the ability to do other screens in order to register to vote. I mean, we can't do that. This is just allowing for fraud. There were numerous examples of fraud that were pointed out right at the time of the debate, where different Board of Elections had identified people that weren't citizens who had registered to vote, who had actually voted in local and presidential elections. And then these people who, a number of them who actually wanted to eventually be good citizens and become American, that they had hired lawyers in order to go through the process of becoming a citizen. And when they found out that they were on the voter rolls, they or their lawyers called different boards of elections in order to get their name off, because obviously that would be a major violation and an impediment to becoming a citizen. So they actually called up to self-report and have their names taken off the voter lists so that they could become citizens. And there were probably a dozen specific examples cited on the floor of the Assembly during the course of this vote on the green light law. And that's before now it'll become easier to do it. And these were people who self-reported because they wanted to eventually try to do the right thing.
Wow. Very admirable. Very. I know a number of county clerks are up in arms over this, the green light law, including Allegheny County Clerk Robert Christman. But the way I understand it, the governor has the power to remove dissenting clerks from office if they don't follow the green light law.
Right.
Am I right in that?
That's my understanding, although I haven't done the research, but that is my understanding. My recollection is that the Livingston County Clerk, Mary Strickland, the last I had heard, which was a number of months ago, felt that she was legally obligated to follow the law, but I will have to check with her to see whether or not there's been any change. In Monroe County before, we had, years ago, we had Cheryl Denolfo, who was the county clerk, and she actively fought against what she believed was illegal, unconstitutional legislation coming out of Albany. She then went on to be county executive and has just recently in this last election lost because she and the Monroe County Legislature were pushing a lawsuit in order to prevent the green light law from going into effect by arguing its unconstitutionality. But now that she is being replaced by a Democrat, and I don't know much about him. I certainly always hope for the best, but I do have a feeling that the Monroe County government will be shifting gears and probably not supporting that legislation anymore. Well, I hope they continue to, because I do think it's going to be an abomination. Although I'll tell you, I have been to a number of farms in our community where they really do would like to see some of the individuals who are their workers, who aren't necessarily illegal immigrants, but who are immigrants, be able to get driver's licenses in order to facilitate their ability to get in and out of town, to go to the grocery store, just to do some of the things that we normally do in life that right now they can't. So I do totally understand that the opinion I have is not universally shared. But the reason I feel this way is because my major concern is about the risks of illegal voting.
Well, if a person is here legally, that's one thing. But if they're here illegally, then that's another entirely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, absolutely, I agree.
Well, let me say, also, there was, I think it's Assemblyman Hawley, I believe. I was reading the other day, I had a story where he wants to introduce a bill that would allow for a $50,000 grant to school districts to hire a resource officer for each school. Now, I don't know if that'll be passed or approved or what, but what do you think about that? A resource officer in each school, and the district gets $50,000 for it.
Yes. I haven't read that legislation yet, although I'm not at all surprised. Excuse me, just woke up this morning, got a little hoarse in my throat.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had also introduced legislation last year along with Senator Pat Galvin, who handles a lot of the Livingston County area with me, for school resource officers too, doing it in a slightly different format. but to allow that, because there are a lot of schools that have school resource officers, many of whom have armed school resource officers. But not all schools in all counties and municipalities can afford it. And so it's important that if there is a school district that wants to have a school resource officer, or, in my opinion, an armed school resource officer, that they have the financial ability. Mm-hmm. The bill I introduced allowed for grant money for that purpose, but I also can understand the $50,000 as well, and also going above, because a lot of the retired officers that I think would make phenomenal school resource officers, because they have all the training that you would want and expect of anybody who would be carrying any type of firearm. A lot of them are retired troopers, retired sheriff deputies, police officers, and they're trained, and they know what they're doing. You have confidence in them. So these are the type of people, and right now there is the $30,000 cap on what people who are retired are able to earn. Mm-hmm. And the $50,000 would allow that to go above it, so that you could realistically hire somebody who is trained, knowledgeable, and who you have confidence that they can perform this job. Because as I think we kind of found out in Florida, it's one thing to have a school resource officer there. You've got to make sure you got somebody with the guts mm-hmm. and the ability to go in when it counts in order to make a difference.
Well,
and those are the people we need to hire.
Well, Assemblywoman, isn't it tragic that we even consider doing this? It's so sad that it's necessary.
Yeah.
That's the nature of our times, I guess. Well, Assemblywoman, anything that you would like to address that I have not?
I don't think right now. No doubt there will be in the very near future, because things are starting to fire up pretty quick mm-hmm, mm-hmm. with legislation that's getting introduced that we're going to be dealing with as soon as we get to Albany in January, because I'm very confident that the issues of health insurance and the legalization of marijuana and a whole lot of other major issues that will dramatically be affecting our communities are going to be front and center as soon as we get there on January 8th. And the legislation, some of which has already been in the pipeline, some of it's being introduced now, that we're getting emails on a daily basis to keep us up to date about what's happening. And I expect it's going to be a very, very busy legislative session. And I'm hoping, though, that, like I said, there are some things that happened last year that we can walk back, if not totally by repealing, at least walk them back partly to any extent that we can would be good, and then try to do some things that are good for our communities.
Okay, Assemblywoman, thank you for your time. I think I will let you have a second cup of coffee here if you just woke up.
I will, and also I'll be heading the roads, because I will be down within, I think it's about an hour and 7-minute drive from my home to Hornell, and as quick as we can be there, I'll be over at the scene of the fire. And I know that what you said is true, and that when I look at it, it is going to be beyond devastating, and mm-hmm. my heart's and my thoughts go out to all of the good people of Hornell.
Well, Assemblywoman, thank you for your time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you on the phone here. So, okay, thank you. Bye. Well, we were speaking with Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns. It sounds like a very, very nice lady. Dedicated. Yes, sounds like a really nice lady. Well, insurance. Everybody needs insurance. That's right. You could do no better than the Ryan Agency. They have offices in Hornell, Jasper, and Wellsville. I think I've said that in the past. Let me see. They are insurance experts. They know the insurance industry. They know how it works. And you walk into their office, you say, look, I need this kind of insurance. I need this insurance for this and that and this and that. And they'll say, well, let me see. And they will go to all these insurance companies and try to find the best rates for you, the best plan for you, because you are the important one. and they are the Ryan Agencies.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
Checking games and note in the NBA, the Clippers needed overtime to get by the Celtics 107-104 in the game of the night. This featured Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, the Clippers' two big offseason acquisitions, playing together for the first time. They combined for 42 points. Lou Williams came off the bench to lead LA with 27 points. Clippers are now 10-5 with the win. Boston falls to 11-3 on the season with the loss. Mavericks crushed the Warriors 142-94. Young star Luka Doncic leading Dallas with 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists in just 26 minutes of action. Nuggets over the Rockets 105-95. Bucks down the Hawks 135-127. Milwaukee is 11-3, tied with Boston for the best record in the East. News from the NHL, where the Toronto Maple Leafs fired their head coach Mike Babcock after just over 4 seasons on the job. Babcock was the highest paid coach in the NHL but never made it out of the first round of the playoffs while coaching in Toronto.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks falling as investors sifted through a slew of earnings reports today, with the Dow falling 19 points, the Nasdaq down 49, S&P 500 down 3. And shares of plant-based meat company Beyond Meat were far from sizzling today on Wall Street, falling over 22%, marking the end of Beyond Meat's lockup period. For the first time since its IPO, early investors can sell the stock. Now, despite the sell-off, Beyond Meat reported a much bigger profit than expected for its third quarter. Shares of Mattel spiking after hours, around 18%, after the toy maker posted better than expected earnings for the third quarter as newer models boosted demand for its flagship Barbie brand, and the launch of dolls based on Korean pop sensation BTS lifted international sales. Mattel also announcing it will be hiring a new chief financial officer in the wake of a whistleblower investigation relating to its accounting practices. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED at affordable prices. And Hims makes it extra affordable. And right now, get your first online visit totally free when you go to forhims.com/joy. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. forhims.com/joy.
At the Simmons Rockwell Nissan stores in Horseheads and Hornell, drive away in a new Nissan Altima SR all-wheel drive sedan for only $329 a month. New all-wheel drive 2020 Altima 2.5 SR models equipped with 19-inch alloys, sport tune suspension, and remote start. Lease with no money down for $329 a month for 36 months. Only tax and DMV fees are due at signing. Shop Simmons-Rockwell.com.
And we're back. Did you watch the Democratic debates last night? The fourth or fifth one or something? Anyway, so there were 10 candidates on stage, and it seemed more like a food fight than anything else, I think. The one thing they could all agree on, all 10 of them, they all despise President Trump. Okay, well, that's the starting ground, I guess. Anyway, so, yeah, it was more like a food fight. But, however, I did learn something. And who would have thought it, okay? Now, I didn't watch the debate last night because it's way past my bedtime, but I did see practically the entire thing this morning on the net. So I followed it there. And I did learn something from, guess, Bernie Sanders. How do you like? I learned something from Bernie Sanders. He said in his quiet, soft-spoken way that we have 8 or 9 years left to clean up the planet, or else we will all die. So Bernie Sanders had 8 or 9 years left. Wow. Now, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right, she said that we have 12 years. So Bernie Sanders goes over a couple of years less or better or something, said 8 or 9 years. So we're all going to die in 8 or 9 years. He also said that the fossil fuel industry should be criminally prosecuted. Wow. 8 or 9 years left. Man, it's worse than I thought. Holy cow. Anyway, okay, that's it for this morning show, and I will see you tomorrow at 8:05. Bye.